ASU picks up right where they left off after the bye week. Washington State comes in on homecoming weekend in Tempe. 12 o'clock game, high noon. This is a rare, it used to be a regular thing, right, Kent? These early afternoon games. And for the Sun Devils going into this game, this is really an opportunity to make your mark again and continue back after that Utah loss 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to reset. The bye came along at the right time. You know, you wonder how they would have played if they'd had to play the following Saturday after that crushing Utah defeat. It'll be interesting to see what ASU team we see coming out of this. Did they really find themselves over a break? Did they take a collective deep breath and say, you know, we've got 5 games left. We saw Utah get beat last week, that this thing isn't over. Or, you know, had they set their sights completely on the Rose Bowl, and how crushing do they see that Utah game? It's yeah. And they finally get to play in the afternoon after all those night games. And I know ASU people weren't happy about it, playing that many in a row. So to play in Arizona sunshine in October is never a bad thing.
No, and Michelle, you've written about the bye week and now leading into this week. What's the current state of the Sun Devils as they prepare for this game?
Well, the bye actually came along at a perfect time. They were a banged up group, and Utah's pretty physical, so they were even more banged up after that game than in previous games. So it's a good chance for them to get guys back on the field. It looks like Chase Lucas will be back. He was practicing this week. Johnny Wilson's been back practicing. Evan Fields is still a question mark, but they needed to get guys healthy. And there were a lot of guys that were playing wounded or banged up that needed a break. So I think that came along at a perfect time. And, you know, they've had to do a lot of recruiting during the off week. You know, you're assessing your offense and your defense. So even though it's a bye week, there are a lot of things that they needed to get done. And I think they like where they're at right now. And
Greg, Washington State loses by 2 points to BYU last week. They come in with a 500 record overall. I know you're enamored with the BYU Pac-12, connection.
I mean, BYU should be the Pac-12 champs, right? Like, they should petition that whoever wins whichever division, whoever wins the Pac-12 has to then play BYU to determine who goes to the Rose Bowl, right?
Yeah, and with the turmoil that Washington State's had with coaches, being fired due to not getting the COVID vaccine, this is an interesting game as they come into Tempe on Saturday, Greg.
Yeah, listen, Washington State, for whatever reason, hires coaches who have these extreme beliefs that put them way outside on the fringes. We already saw Mike Leach, and we all know what he was doing out there before he took off. And then now this, I don't know, Nick Rolovich, right? I don't know. He Darwined himself, right? Like, if you don't get a shot, a vaccination during a pandemic, you probably ought not be leading young men. So whatever happens to him, happens to him. Listen, Washington State, regardless, gives up entirely too many big plays for this football team to scare anybody affiliated with Arizona State. Nobody's given up more running plays of more than 10 yards. Nobody's given up, more passing plays, more 30-yard passing plays. They've given up 13 30-yard passing plays. They've given up 49 runs of 10-plus yards. If Arizona State's offense just does what it does, they should be able to get these guys out of there.
Let me go to you, Michelle, on the ASU defense versus the quarterback for the Cougars, who's thrown 15 touchdowns and over 1,700 yards passing so far. Is that going to be a challenge for that Sun Devil secondary?
Well, I hope not. And Chase Lucas coming back is huge. I think that was one of the biggest problems they had against Utah, was Chase Lucas being out and Evan Fields being out, because Fields can kind of play. He can play the passing game, but he can come up and run support too. So having those two guys out against Utah, I hate to use injuries excuse, but it was huge. And Utah picked on Tamarcus Davis all day and all night last week. So I think just having Chase back there, not only with the way he plays, but his leadership and he's the quarterback back there. I think that goes a long way in kind of settling things down there, because there were some young players that played last game that really probably saw more action than they were ready to see. So I think ASU is going to be all right in that regard. And the quarterback, Jaden Delora from Washington State, can be very erratic, doesn't always make the best decisions. So if he does make bad decisions, ASU can capitalize on that.
Kent, the mindset for the Sun Devils going into this, knowing that UCLA lost and Utah and UCLA playing this week, it really gives the Sun Devils some hope that they can make up those two games that Utah had on them.
Yeah, it does, and it's one reason why they better be on point Saturday. Look, they were banged up at Utah, but I don't care who they were missing. There's no excuse for giving up 4 touchdowns in the second half, getting outscored 28-0 and blowing that game. The kids that were playing were the same ones in the first half that had a 21-7 lead. They better be ready for Washington State. I would just look at their schedule and I would see a team that beat Oregon State, that beat Utah last week, that played Utah closer than ASU did, that played BYU closer than ASU did. And sometimes teams rally around when there's a lot of controversy in a program, and I think Washington State's going to be ready. I don't think this is a walkover by any means.
I agree, and the 15-point spread here, just to give Greg a heads up of what this next segment is here, is something that I think is a little too big. But Michelle, let's go to your prediction first here. Washington State and ASU Saturday afternoon.
I'm going to go 35-21. I think it's a get-well game for ASU. Washington State, like Greg says, gives up a lot of plays on defense, and ASU's got weapons that can put together those big plays, including Jaden Daniels with his legs. So I think ASU wins it by 2 scores.
Okay, Greg?
I mean, Jaden Daniels is top 10 in the Pac-12 in rushing and passing. I think if we're talking about quarterbacks, that's the quarterback we need to be talking about. He throws a beautiful deep ball. Jaden, nobody's got more completions of more than 30 yards. Jaden's got 12 of those. 5-0. Jaden wears number 5, right? ASU 5, Washington State 0.
Okay. I might take that as 5 touchdowns, but okay. We'll go with that, Greg. Kent?
I think this is going to be a close game. And I think it could come down to a kicker and special teams play. ASU hasn't been very good at that. And all season long, we see like boneheaded plays on special teams almost every week, it seems like, from ASU. Just getting guys and the right number of guys on the field seems to be a struggle sometimes. Given all that, I think ASU wins at home. I'm going to say 24-20.
24-20. All right. Saturday afternoon, Sun Devil Stadium, homecoming for the Devils. All your coverage here on azcentral.com.